Good evening and welcome to the June 13th, 2019 meeting for the Gaston County Board of Education. I am Brent Moore, Crowers Mountain Township and Chairman of the Board, and to my left is Kevin Collier, Vice Chairman of River Bend Township. At this time, I'd like to ask the other members of the board to introduce themselves.
Lee Denton, Gaston Township.
Terry Usry, Tryon. Excuse me. Cherryville Township.
Steve Hall, Dallas Township.
Dot Guthrie, Gaston.
Jeff Ramsey, at-large member.
Dot Cherry, at-large member.
On behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome everyone to our meeting tonight. I hope our students, teachers, and parents who have worked hard this year are enjoying their first day of summer. This board appreciates all of what you do and are proud of your hard work. We hope everyone has a safe and restful summer. But we have some business to attend to this evening, so let's get started. Our first order of business is to have our pledge, a prayer and pledge of allegiance. And I'd like to ask Mr. Booker, Dr. Booker.
Thank you, Chairman Moore. Oh, Father God, we just praise you. We come to you with gratitude and thanksgiving for an excellent year in Gaston County Schools. We thank you for your protection. We had our bumps and bruises, but Lord, you protected us from so much. We thank you for all that you did that we don't even know to be thankful for. But today we just sit here in awesome praise of all that you have done and all that we have watched students do, from 5 years old all the way to 18 and 20 years old. We just thank you for being a part of that and for all that you do. And we ask that you be with us tonight and just guide and guard us, Lord, as we do your will in the work and benefit of this community. Amen.
Amen.
Please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our next order of business is to adopt the agenda. You have a proposed agenda in front of you.
I make a motion to adopt the agenda, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Ramsey, Mr. Dedman. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? And it's carried. Our next order of business is to hear some good news happening in our school. Superintendent Booker, give us the good news.
Oh, yes, sir. We have a long list of good news tonight. The boardroom is full. I want to begin with Sadler Elementary, Madeline Hendricks. All right, well, we'll hold her great news. Now I know why Mr. Usry talked about Tryon Elementary. Let's take time to recognize one of our graduates and all the work done at one of our elementary schools. So Morgan Jenkins, would you please come forward? A proud graduate of Bessemer City High School in 2018. Thank you for being here tonight. This is a really neat story, folks. Ms. Jenkins created and installed a sensory path that spans the entire kindergarten building. The space gives students opportunities to hop and count, push on the wall, participate in the frog jump, tiptoe, and do other balance activities. Also, the alphabet hopscotch. She did this as part of a legacy project for Tryon Elementary School. She is studying elementary education at UNC Charlotte, and we're hoping that she recognizes Gaston County Schools is waiting on her to come back and teach our children. So, thank you for what you've done for the students of Tryon. Mr. Usry?
And Morgan, on behalf of the Board of Education, we have this certificate that we want to present to you. Can I shake your hand? And maybe I need to get up there, Madam Principal, and do some of that hopping and jumping and getting on and lose some of this physique that I have. But thank you so much, and congratulations to you for your accomplishments.
They get some sort of steps or two close from you. I did go see it.
Congratulations to you.
Congratulations, go 49ers.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
See, now you don't have to worry.
Doing all right, yeah, lady? Doing good? You have a good kid?
Members of the board, a number of weeks ago, you recognized one of our students who the chamber had recognized for their entrepreneurship. That same night, an individual was there from our community, Mr. Chris Elmore, and he is with us tonight, and I'd like to ask him to come forward, please. Mr. Elmore is an entrepreneur, and he has done a number of things and been very successful. And today, in addition to running his company, he serves as a professor at UNC Charlotte and at Queens in entrepreneur and innovation. He tonight is here because he is donating one of his books, The Princess and the Paper, to our elementary schools. So he has a copy for each of those schools. So we've asked Ms. Guthrie, so get ready, Mr. Elmore, to come down and accept this on behalf of us, because we appreciate your generous donation. And I see we have Mr. David from the chamber here. Steve, if you want to join this up. And we have the chamber president as well.
Wow.
Thank you all for being with us tonight.
All the big wigs. Nothing but the best.
Ms. Guthrie, please.
All right, well, I see books, and I love books.
Good.
So you're gonna have to do this with me, okay?
Okay.
You're gonna have to sing with me.
Okay, I'm down.
All right. I love books. Repeat.
I love books.
Books love me.
Books love me.
They give me information that I need.
They give me information that I need.
That is why I love to read.
That is why I want you to have this. My wife was waiting for me to say something stupid.
On behalf of our board chair, our superintendent, and the board, and of course all of the officers, Gaston County Schools, and our wonderful faculty members and friends, I am honored to present you with this certificate. It reads, presented to Chris Elmore, outstanding contributions, a book donation to our school on June 13th, 2019. I am so happy that you're doing that. Thank you so very much.
I did want to say just real quick that I want to thank the chamber, because it was totally their idea and I'm just getting all the credit for it, which is the way an entrepreneur works.
Thank you, chamber. We love it.
Yeah, and a brief comment, those actually were signed by those that were at the Small Business Awards that evening. So inside we have different words of advice from different folks, except on the front cover, the mayor of Belmont and 2 county commissioners signed the front, thinking they were the authors.
We'll put that on eBay. Put that on eBay.
Yeah. But another note, Mr. Elmore is a graduate of Gaston College.
Yep.
And is the co-founder of Avid Exchange, which is a unicorn. And those that don't know what a unicorn is
It's
it's your unicorn.
It's a company that's started from zero, worth over $1 billion.
Wow.
So I know, pretty impressive. 1.4 billion. We're proud of it. Yeah.
Oh, there will be many more books.
That's right.
You already messed up.
Yeah.
So, are we ready?
Let me, if one of you each hold one of the books.
Perfect.
Not all the books.
We should just ask the board members to hold a book.
Yes, whatever.
Because this is literacy and work.
We should read it.
I got one that says you're going to donate more money.
Yeah, that's fiction. That's fiction. It's not fiction.
Put you right here, Mr. Elmore.
Okay.
That'd be great. Thinking puppet. Gabriel. Booker. She's okay. Look at that.
I love to distribute books.
We'll let you
Well,
go.
let me have one.
All right, thank you.
Awesome.
And all you know is photos.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There we go. Wow, my goodness. There. Thank you.
Yeah, you can bring Caroline.
I know, I was never good at that.
Good seeing you again.
Do it again.
Oh, we don't get together. Appreciate it.
That's right. I'm gonna get you on your way. That's right. Nice to see you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Glad you're here. Thank you so much.
Members of the board, one of the things that we have really prided ourselves on in Gaston County is how we interact with our parents and providing parents student information. And tonight we wanted to recognize 11 of our schools for their superior work towards providing information. The accountability department will conduct an audit of our power school within their student information system. And it takes place every year. Scott Castle, is Scott back there? Stand up, Scott. Scott's the man behind the screen, kind of like in The Wizard of Oz. But Scott works really hard. How many times you reset my password, Scott? Yeah. But he works along with Rebecca Powers and is really responsible for overseeing these audits. And he is here tonight because he wanted to be a part of recognizing the schools and their data managers for the excellence they have done in their reporting and compiling. So we want to recognize schools that received a perfect 100 score, no errors. East Gaston High School, Hawks Nest STEAM Academy, and Highland School of Technology. If the representatives are with us from those schools, they can come forward. Thank you all for being here.
And this is a certificate of recognition on behalf of the board, which is signed by our superintendent and our chairman, Mr. Moore. Thank you.
Start Monday, got there at 7.
So those 3 schools received 100s, but we have 8 schools that received 99% ratings on their audits. So if we have representatives of South Point High School, Cramerton Middle School, Catawba Heights Elementary School, H.H. Beam Elementary School, Gaston Early College High School, Stuart W. Kramer High School, Page Primary School, and North Belmont Elementary School. If those reps could come forward, please. Bless you.
Bless you.
page. Okay, we'll let Becky see it. HHB.
We got Gary up here.
Watch it.
What was your husband's name? Your decision there.
Well, guys call that outlining their coverage. That's kind
I would love to, first of all, I love the opportunity to work for Gaston County Schools, but I love the support I have. I love Scott Castle. Without him, I couldn't have done it. I want to thank Susan Young for also being my backup girl. Thank you.
Want to say anything, whatever? Go ahead.
I would like to thank Scott. He is a lifeline to us. He and April both. Don't know what, we couldn't have achieved this without them.
And we feel the same way with our clerk here, Dana. She keeps us straight on.
Count on us.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Okay.
Are you able to move? Are you good?
I can, will you hold this? Yes, and I can move it. So you just right over here. Okay.
Perfect. There's a sheet right there. You sit right there in that spot. Mr. Cobb, you can keep your head right there. Thank you.
Come around. See these guys. Y'all make your round. Coming out or
Well done. Thank you. You compare notes?
Yep. So it is summer, as the chairman already said, and I believe Ms. Hendricks is taking advantage of it. Dr. Amir, we appreciate you being here and representing Sadler. I just wanted to acknowledge she is our proudest kid in Gaston County, which means she was the award-winning essay of the contest that's sponsored by Gaston Together. This is a partnership that we have where our children visit various sites in the county and then they write an essay about it. And the neat thing about this is Senator Harrington is a partner in this, and she will invite her family up to Raleigh and she'll get to spend time and be introduced on the floor. So this is a great acknowledgement. We appreciate Dr. Amir's leadership at Sadler, and he was very excited that night when she was selected. He did the big cheer, so thank you for being here. And we'll just, if this fall, if we can get her back, Todd, that'd be great. So, Mr. Chairman, that concludes the good news for tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think you should do a cartwheel. How was the book? The book weren't, okay.
The next item on our agenda allows the opportunity for public expression. Tonight, we do have individuals signed up to be heard. This is a time where the board will hear comments from members of the public about matters of public concern related to the school system. Before we begin, let me outline our procedures. Citizens wishing to make comment who have completed a request to speak form will be recognized by the chair and then requested to speak to step to the microphone for their comments. Citizens will state their name and address for the record. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. The members of the board do not comment on public expression during public expression. Public expression does not allow for comments on confidential or personnel matters, and the chair shall rule on all points of order during public expression. And we have a Mrs. Erin Russell.
Thank you. We love to have papers. Hello, I'm Erin Russell. I live at 23 Circle Drive in Belmont, North Carolina. This is a repeat issue that I'm here for tonight. I'm here to address an issue of concern as well as an issue of equity, and one that I think brings in the school board policy number 410. It's recently come to my attention that existing athletic guidelines, which I will admit cannot being able to find in the policies, nor having seen in paper, but I understand that they permit student cost of up to $600 for athletic uniforms and equipment for a student to play a sport. So $600 per student, per sport, per season. In this county and in this school district, $600 is an outrageous number and exceeds by far what is reasonable and affordable for families in our community. I appreciate that coaches and schools want the best for their teams. We'd all like to step off the bus looking like a pro team, but this must be tempered by what's reasonable. Well, this is a matter of being fiscally prudent in respect for families and their ability to pay. It's also a matter of equity, ensuring that all students, regardless of income, have the opportunity to participate, are not deterred from trying out, don't feel like they need to embarrass themselves by going to a coach and saying, I just can't afford this, and aren't burdened by these excessive costs. Every student deserves the chance to play. Before you are some statistics that help put into perspective what $600 means in Gaston County. I believe they help demonstrate how disproportionate and burdensome this amount can be for some families. The number exceeds what you would pay for an entire year for school lunches. If you look at the median income in our county, which is very skewed, which the map shows, and in many areas, this would be, in excess of like a couple % of a family's income for an entire year to pay $600. I'm asking the board to take 2 concrete steps to address this and help bring better equity and fiscal prudence to athletic participation. First, lower the maximum amount that a student can be asked to contribute to uniforms. And second, make optional any item that is not required to actually play the sport. Extras like spirit shirts and other accessories need not only to be optional, but to be made clearly optional. So like, for example, here's a backpack that I will be sending to Goodwill because I will be purchasing a new backpack for my child to play this sport so that her backpack will match everybody else's for the next go-round of uniforms. What is not the answer are car washes, wrapping paper sales, or other fundraising for kids. So some of you can ask coaches to take a look at this, but I'd like you to look at a reasonable approach. I'm happy to be part of a solution that will bring better equity and fiscal prudence to this issue.
Thank you, Ms. Russell, for your comments and your continued concern for Gaston County Schools. Although the board does not typically respond during this period for public comment, we do want to hear from the public and direct staff to work on those issues that need to be addressed. Thank you for your comments. The next item on our agenda is the approval or correction of minutes from our past meetings. Tonight we are asking for the approval from the minutes from May 20th, 2019. I need a motion to approve those minutes as presented. Ms. Cherry, Mr. Hall, any questions, discussion? All in favor? That's carried. The next item on the agenda is the report from the Curriculum and Instruction Committee. Ms. Dot Guthrie is the chair of that committee, and I believe Mrs. Cherry is giving that report.
Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Moore. We had a curriculum meeting on June the 3rd. Members present were Chairman Dot Guthrie, Chairwoman, excuse me, Terry Usry, myself, Justin Davis, and our Chair Brent Moore. The meeting was called to order at 5:30. Minutes were approved from our last meeting on May 7th. At this meeting, the committee received an update on the Teachers Induction Program of Success, known as TIPS, and the TIPS transformation blend instructional support with resource management to provide a well-rounded foundation for beginning teachers at all levels and in all content areas. The focus of the meeting was on elementary level. We will get updates on secondary levels in upcoming meetings, and we were very impressed with the success stories that they brought to us and the input that the teachers that are in this program gave back in the feedback and regarding the success that they have seen by being in the program. So we're very pleased about that. Student Support Services is working with elementary school counselors to develop an annual comprehensive counseling plan at all the elementary schools. This plan will help determine the most effective way to meet the needs of the students. Through multiple opportunities to connect with the students, elementary school counselors are able to focus on character, education, and social and emotional learning. Staff also presented information on health textbook adoptions. A committee of health teachers selected a textbook that aligns with the North Carolina Essential Standards for Healthful Living and Health Education for 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grades. The digital version of the textbook is updated annually to provide current information on health topics. And these health topics are current health topics. So that includes vaping and opioids. So we were very excited to hear about that. This will be the standard 6-year adoption. The meeting adjourned at 6:56, and the committee chair will share a date for our next meeting in the coming weeks. And that's my report.
Thank you, Ms. Cherry. The next item on our agenda is to announce the appointment of the newest member of Gaston College Board of Trustees. Each year, the Board of Education is charged by the statute to select an individual to serve a 4-year term on the Gaston College Board of Trustees. Earlier this afternoon, in a special called meeting, individuals wishing to be considered were interviewed by the board. Mr. Steve Huffstetler was selected to serve the term 2019 to 2023. This board appreciates all who asked to be considered and thank them for their willingness to serve. And once again, we congratulate Mr. Steve Huffstetler on his appointment. Our next item on the agenda is the Gaston Early College High School calendar revision for 2019-2020, and this is an action item. It's Mr. Joe Clinton.
Good evening, Chairman Moore, Vice Chair Collier, board members, Superintendent Booker. The Gaston Early College calendar had a revision due to the fact that Gaston College changed their spring break dates. They moved them back 1 week from March 9th through the 13th to March 2nd through the 6th. And so for that reason, we want to align the Gaston Early College calendar with those dates as well.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve that as submitted by Mr. Clinton.
Mr. Devon? Okay.
I'll second that motion so we can have discussion.
Okay.
Do y'all, does early college, do they get out the same as the college does? I mean, like at Christmas, they take like 10 days off?
Yes, sir.
I have a first and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? And it is carried.
Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is the approval of the 2019 through 2024 strategic plan, and this is an action item. Dr. Booker.
Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for allowing us to present the strategic plan. You have at each of your seats the bound strategic plan. So this is the culmination of months of work. You all have participated at various times. And so part of your instructions to us were to place on our website the plan. This was done on May 20th, and a link was provided for our community to give feedback and to allow them to provide comments to us. Also, on May 29th, we met with a parent focus group to gather additional feedback. We have had several parents throughout the year who have been active in talking about our existing strategic plan and our overall performance, and we invited them in for a close meeting, and they gave feedback, and some of their revisions are in what you are being presented tonight. So the feedback that we received was very valuable, and overall, this just kind of tries to summarize for you. Mr. Montgomery, aren't you impressed that we're using that? I learned that in one of your presentations. So it's one of our strategies of note-taking that's being taught in our high schools, folks. But we just wanted to present it to you tonight and ask that you would approve our strategic plan for the next 5 years.
Mr. Chair, I'd like a motion to approve the strategic plan presented.
Second, Mr. Devon. Any questions?
One question for Dr. Booker. Dr. Booker, how many, just curiosity, how many people, when it was on the website, responded to us? Just, close.
We did not feel like we'd gotten an overwhelming response to it, and that was part of why we reached out. Dr. Balknight had done several groups during the year, and so we called some of those parents and asked for them to come and participate. Yes, sir.
Because I've had parents mention it, and I keep telling them, hey, it's on the website, and we want your input.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Any more questions, discussion? All in favor? It's carried.
Thank you.
One more thing, Mr. Chairman. This is, we did this very quickly. This is a tremendous amount of work. I mean, to put all this together in all the meetings they had, this is like Southern Association all over again or worse. So congratulations to everybody that had a big part in this. This is a really very delicate and very concise and a lot of information in this thing. But thank you, Dr. Booker, and your staff.
And I appreciate you pointing that out. Ms. Powers would have been here to present tonight. She is the architect and spent all the time. She met with each department, worked through that work as well as numerous presentations to you all. She has her son playing in the Little League Championship game tonight.
Where she needs to be.
And I felt like that was a better place for her to be. So, but she is very excited about the work, and you'll see a significant change from the last 5-year plan in the way the data is tracked. And that was feedback that we got from some of these parents.
Would you please tell her how much we appreciate what she has done?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is academically and intellectually gifted AIG plan, and this is also an action item. Ms. Carrie Munich.
You tonight and tell you just a little bit about our academically and intellectually gifted plan for 2019 through 2022. We are currently serving 3,183 AIG students in Gaston County schools and an additional 592 in our composer program. All of those students are touched through this plan. One thing that I was really excited about when we were looking at our data was that we've had 125 composer students actually become AIG qualified in the last 2 years. So we feel like that program is really working for us and helping our students move forward as we had hoped that it would be. We currently receive $2,092,144 in state funds for our AIG program. And that money is used to support our AIG coordinator, Susan Jordan, who is with us tonight. And I need to take a minute to thank her
I do not know what our program would do without Susan. Not only was she the person that put the plan together, helped plan our parent meeting when we were getting that feedback, surveyed teachers, went out and visited people in person, but does that every day for our program and really makes sure that all of our teachers have what they need, all of our students are being served appropriately, all of our data is correct. I just appreciate all that she does and needed to take a minute to thank her for that work. It also supports an AIG middle school specialist. This year we had an ELA Johnstone, our English language arts person. And next year we will have a math support person coming on board. So we're really excited to provide that help to our middle school teachers next year. And then of course all of our elementary AIG teachers. Some of them pictured here as they were visiting the new BizTown site over in Charlotte earlier this year. We also receive $111,000 in local funds, and those funds support our competitions that we do yearly that we're really excited about, materials and supplies for middle and high school AIG teachers and AP classes, and then training for AIG and AP teachers. And some of that training is getting ready to take place this summer. Many of our AP teachers are going to summer sessions to learn about their courses that they teach, to become experts in the content, to get really good ideas, to create their syllabuses. And then our AIG teachers attend lots of things during the year and have the opportunity for that growth and staff development. One thing that I did not put on here, but that we're really excited about, is our 3 summer programs. And we currently have 104 students signed up for our high school prep session this summer. And we have 92 signed up for our middle school camp and 60 students signed up for elementary. So we are really excited about those numbers. We had 40 high schoolers last year, so we have more than doubled that number, and actually more than doubled our middle school number as well, and this is our first year for elementary. So we're really excited that parents are taking advantage of these opportunities and finding the value in them that we do too. So any questions?
I have one. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Carrie, are you seeing that the sign-ups are good wide range through the county? Or
yes, we actually ran that. The largest percentage of students is coming from Ashbrook, but the teacher at Ashbrook is our lead teacher, and so I'm sure she is, and it held at Ashbrook last year. So we're moving to early college this year to try to be a little more centrally located, and we have representation from every school except for Webb Street that has high school students in Gaston. So we've got great.
Thank you. Good job.
Yes.
Good. I was just curious, maybe Dr. Booker or Gary can answer it. This new Senate bill that talks about level 5, are we making plans to do it? Because this is a big deal. I mean, I know that y'all know that, but.
I can absolutely answer that for you.
Okay.
So Shelley Gibson and Steve Loudon, who are the middle school math specialist curriculum facilitators, have been working really closely together and with me to make sure that we are ready for that. And so this summer they are providing, we have, I'm not going to get my numbers exactly right, I think it's 127 rising 7th graders and 129 rising 8th graders. It's roughly 250 altogether that will be completing summer sessions with them online, and there will be weekly support sessions where the students can come in person to make sure that any of our students that have scored or are projected to score level 5.
So it's projected, you don't have to do either projected or have done it?
Yes. A level 5 last year or projected to score that this year. They are working with all of those students to make sure that they are prepared for that next level of advanced math. So since our 6th grade has missed some of the compacted curriculum, they'll receive that in their summer session, and then our rising 8th grade will as well.
Will we have to hire extra people for that, Dr. Booker?
It will stress an already tough subject for finding enough folks. And I understand that there has been some legislation considered to delay it for a year.
But this afternoon they said no on that.
Right.
I mean, I did send an email to one of those people up that live up that way, but it's no avail. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Ms. Garrett.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the AIG plan.
Second.
Mr. Ramsey, Mr. Devon. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? That's carried.
Let me know about that. I'm just curious.
Thank you, Ms. Munich. The next item on our agenda is school safety policy updates, and this is also an action item. And Dr. Amy Parker.
Good evening. Thank you so much for your time this evening. I just want to give you a little bit of information about our school safety, particularly our anonymous bullying reporting process. So there's legislation now that every school system should have an anonymous reporting program that's supported by North Carolina legislation, and it also works with our bullying protocols in the schools. And so we have had this bullying reporting form for 2 years that we have been using. It is linked to the counseling website through the Gaston County Schools, the department website, but also through all the schools, middle and high schools, and the elementary schools as they're developing their websites. They're including that as well so that the students have the opportunity to complete a Google form, which they're very familiar with completing Google forms through what they do in their classes. Basically, the process is that the form allows you are asked if you would like to include identifying information so that you can be contacted for follow-up, but it can be submitted without that identifying information, thus fulfilling the anonymous part. The report is checked daily, so it comes to a spreadsheet, and I check that daily. If I'm at a conference or anything, then I ask someone else to check that, but it also sends me alerts if someone completes the form, but I still go in daily just as a double check to make sure that we are finding any reports that are made. And then we follow up with the school level administrators for any concerns that are expressed. So one piece that we also ask that's kind of an additional piece is that we do ask the school level administrators to complete a follow-up form after they have done their investigation so that we will know kind of what happened from that report and how it was resolved and how we know that that student that maybe have experienced some difficulty is feeling safe and protected. How we developed this process is that we did look at other school sites, particularly got that piece of asking for the follow-up from another district that, we talked to, and that's not something that's necessarily in some of the programs that you can purchase, but that's something that we added into our Google form because we are checking it ourselves daily. Also, once the legislation came out, I did follow up with Mike Anderson. He is from the NC Center for Safer Schools, just to talk to him about the process, about what we were doing, and if that fulfilled the guidelines. We do make sure that students are aware of this. Of course, I talk with this with our school support staff at our meetings all the time, but we also want the students to know directly and the parents. So that's part of our stand-up presentations that we do annually in October in our National Bullying Awareness Month. And so that's pretty much my report, just to let you know how we are fulfilling that legislation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
Just a comment. When we discussed this in our committee meetings, I'm sure the curriculum probably did the same thing. It was interesting to find out how far ahead Gaston County is in this when they talked about working with other districts and regional levels that didn't even have anything. So I was proud to learn that we are kind of the leader in the state when it comes to this, and this board and this community should be proud.
Dr. Parker, did you think this made a difference with us last year?
I do. I think so, and I did often get feedback. I always send an email. If they provide their information, I always send an email or do a phone call just to let them know the reports received and what action has been taken. And I've gotten some feedback back from families that they felt like there was resolution and that they felt like that really promoted safety.
You had a lot of feedback from the parents of a bullied child. I mean, were they receptive to?
Yes. I have received feedback that they thought that things were helpful, and if they felt like they needed some more support, then I was able to provide that. And it's a nice flow because I can also talk to them about opportunities for school-based therapy and things like that if there's anything else like that needed.
The reason I say that is yesterday on the news, some parent went into an elementary school last week and fussed at the kids that were bullying her child, and then she got arrested. And she said on the news last night, she said, I'm a good example of what you shouldn't do. So I'm glad that some parents should get it. Thank you for what you do. We appreciate it.
Dr. Parker, also, while you're doing this report, would you share about the event that you just had as the culmination of our Stand Up Gaston?
Certainly. We have an amazing partnership. Sean Golden has his Golden Opportunity Program, and he and I have worked together the last 2 years and plan to work together next year. He worked with Dick's Sporting Good, and we gave every student in middle and high school an opportunity card that included our stand-up guidelines. So it's asking them how they're going to set goals for themselves academically, also character education that goes into that, anti-bullying, and also just some personal goals. And so each school, as the students complete their cards, they could let their counselors know, and at the end of the school year, the students, one student from every middle and high school was selected, and they received a $50 gift card at Dick's Sporting Good. So we all met over there on June 4th. It might have been a high shopping day for Dick's Sporting Good. I saw some principals buying some things, so that was nice. But we were there and just, took a picture with our banner, and this store was really nice to kick in some extra incentives, some little string bags with some Dick's Sporting Good items, so that was very nice. It was a great evening. We really enjoyed. The students were really excited, and if they got there a little early, I told them to go ahead and start shopping. They were getting ready to get $50 and a $10 gift card, so really $60.
This is an action item. So we need a motion to approve. Mr. Hall, Mrs. Guthrie, any more questions, discussion? All in favor? It's carried. Thank you, Dr. Parker. Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is the annual surplus report, and this is an information item. Dr. Morgan Houchard.
This evening, we shared with you our annual surplus report. Should be in your board packet, a detailed report. I want to share with you quickly the process, which begins with surplus items being delivered to our warehouse. The staff there takes pictures, they create a general description of the item, and they establish a minimum bid price. That item is then posted to the internet to parade around for 1 week on govdeals.com. Anyone can bid on that item, and at the close of 7 days, the highest bidder is awarded the surplus item. Once the payment is received electronically, then they're allowed to pick up the item. Now, as you can see, a total this year of $26,853 was collected, and all of the non-capital funds will go back to the department to reinvest in needed equipment. So I do want to say I do appreciate our logistics and warehouse folks for all the work that they do to complete this process. Sometimes it's not an easy one, so they work hard and help us through that process. So that's my report. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you, Dr. Houchard. Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is the 2019-2020 interim budget, and this is an action item. Mr. Gary Hoskins.
Good evening, Chairman Moore, Vice Chairman Collier, members of the board, Superintendent Booker. North Carolina state statute requires that each school district operate under a budget approved by their Board of Education each fiscal year, which is the reason we're here to ask for the adoption of an interim budget, which we're recommending to be 80% of our current level budget, the 2018-19 budget. The reason we're doing this is that the state of North Carolina has not yet approved their budget, and as you know, our fiscal year ends June 30th. So the state Senate, the State House, and the governor have each proposed their individual budgets. The House and the Senate are currently in conference working out their differences, and at that point, it will go to the governor. If you recall, last year, the governor vetoed the budget, and the House and the Senate overrode that veto. This year, since then, there's been another election, and I don't know that they have the votes to override a veto. So there'll probably be a lot more negotiations, so we're not sure when we'll get a state budget. However, on June 11th, the Gaston County commissioners did approve the local budget for Gaston County schools. They approved $50.3 million in operating funds, $1.3 million for SROs, $65,000 for Commissioner School, and that represents an increase of $1,960,000 in operating funds for Gaston County schools. In addition, they authorized the payment of $26.3 million in school bond debt and also $2.2 million in capital funding. And if you recall, last year, we got $1.2 million for almost probably several years prior to that. So they added another $1 million for our capital funding, which is sorely needed. So, Mr. Chairman, we ask that you adopt an interim budget at the level of 80% of this year's current budget for next year.
Mr. Chair, I make the motion to adopt our interim budget for 2019-2020.
Mr. Devon? Any questions,
I
discussion?
have one question, or not a question, a comment, and Dr. Walker and Ms. Hoskins, they gave us an extra $1 million. Did they take that from somewhere else, or are we getting an extra $1 million for capital out of the sky?
Well, it's out of their general budget, so
Okay,
we are
So
getting.
we're really not getting an extra $1 million?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we
You're
are.
going from 1.2 in capital to 2.2 million. So there's $1 million of additional capital that we will have to deploy. And they have some expectations of how that will be utilized that you all will manage. And then on our operating budget, we received $1,960,000. I think what you're getting at is the operating, we had asked for $3 million and that, and so we got 2 instead of 3, but all of it works to be an increase to the budget we operated this year on it.
Good.
And I appreciate you acknowledging that, because this is great work on the commission. You all, a number of you attended the adoption of that budget, and they had all communicated, we are all the discussions about education, they had done it, and throughout all their budget iterations, they continue to support public education, and we appreciate that.
They're really trying to support our education. And, you know, they're in it with us together. I mean, it's not
Yes,
not
sir.
them and us. It's them and us together, and I think that'll make a difference in Gaston County. Thank
Yes.
you, sir.
Any other questions? I have a first and a second. All in favor? That's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hoskins. Our next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. There are several items on the consent agenda tonight. Please take a look at those items listed. Do I hear a motion to approve those items on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as written.
Ms. Cherry?
Presented.
Mr. Hall, second. Any questions, discussion? All in favor? And it is carried. That brings us to the time in our meeting to hear from our superintendent. Dr. Booker, do you have any comments?
Yes, sir. I could talk a lot tonight, but you all have started early, and we have a closed session to get to, so I will keep my comments brief. I will thank you for the interim budget vote that you just did. And you may have heard a difference, Mr. Hoskins talking about an 80% budget, where we have done a higher percentage in the past, but we felt we needed to be more conservative based on what we know is being considered in the General Assembly. So that's a noted point. Also, on your consent agenda, you see the work of our committees, that you have a number of things on the consent agenda because they were presented at the committees and discussed and then come through there. And just for the board's notice, that the reason we ask for the consent that the chair can authorize us to do things, we have a number of summer projects going on, and to keep those projects moving, we may need to reach out to him and say, may we have approval? We'll bring all those items to you in August for ratification, but it allows those projects to not fall behind and not be ready for when school opens. So we appreciate your support with that. Mr. Hagan's is probably sad for me to say that we're coming to the conclusion of the 50th anniversary of Gaston County Schools, but it has been a true golden anniversary celebration. You all have been real troopers and shown up at a lot of events and supported as we celebrated what is an outstanding 50 years. And so to Mr. Hagan's and his whole team, thank you for doing that. He also always likes to thank the committee that was made up of folks from central office departments, from the different schools, school leadership, and actual teacher leaders. So we just appreciate everybody, and it was an outstanding year with the number of events we had. Nothing, though, tops.
Thank you, Mr. Hagan. Thank you so much. It was wonderful.
And while all that was great, nothing tops this past Saturday. And as everybody knows, it was a long, wet weekend starting with Thursday. And and I want to thank our community for the way they rallied around our schools, and for a number of our schools that historically have had their graduations outside, they were moved inside. Great just spirit around moving inside and a can-do attitude throughout. In particular, I want to recognize some departments that got called in at the 11th hour on Thursday. Our technology department mobilized folks at every school to make sure that we could broadcast all of these beyond the normal interior broadcasting. And it was really neat. One of the graduations I was at was inside, and they actually had someone viewing from South America and put a comment out on YouTube for that. And so it was really neat. We had some bumps in that. Actually lost power at one of the sites, and it took about 25 minutes. And we want to thank the city of Gastonia for their prompt response. And what was even more important, the response in getting the power back, their communication of, we will get this, you will get, because the school was trying to adjust and figure out what to do. So I've reached out to Mr. Peoples and the city of Gastonia just to thank him. It was great to show their commitment. So a lot of folks did yeoman's work for over 2,200 students to graduate. We had 2 students who had perfect attendance for their entire career. That was a really neat thing. Numerous accolades. I can tell you one of the great things for me is on Saturday night and Sunday, the principals share with me the speeches given by our students. Powerful, powerful words. And it really shows what our teachers have done in developing the talent that is entrusted to us. And so we would be remiss if we didn't thank our community for entrusting us with their students. It is their most valuable resource and things, and we take this very serious, and I applaud all 4,000 employees that support that and do great things on behalf of that. But what we know is August 26th will be here before we know it. We've already got some trainings that have been going on this week in preparation for next year. So we want to remind our community, kindergarten registration goes on every day. We are glad to meet those. Also, for folks relocating here, our schools are open Monday through Thursday and would love to tour and show folks around at what we believe is their best option for their education. Our site at Forest Heights is always open for them to register. And we want to also remind everybody that we have a number, as Ms. Minnick pointed out, a number of great summer opportunities for kids. We also will be doing our summer camp for our first through third graders and numerous sites there. And don't forget our summer feeding program. Over 80 sites in this community where we will be feeding people. Actually, this year have a bus going around feeding folks. So that's another way that we are part of this community. And so with that, we'll call 2018-19 a good year, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Booker. The next item on the agenda is closed session, and we do have a need to go into closed session for North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A6 for personnel. And I need a motion. Ms. Cherry and Mr. Any questions, discussion? All in favor? And it's carried. We're in closed session. Open session. Mr. Booker, I believe you have some things for us.
Yeah, thank you, members of the board. It's the time of the year where we have contract renewals, and I would like to begin with the assistant principal contract renewals. We would be offering 4-year contracts to the following individuals: Jennifer Russell Bergerson, Bridget Best, Will Buckinett, Michael Lance Frady, Todd Goff, Chelsea Harley, Vanetta Littlejohn, Shannon Long, James Potter, Timothy Reed, Matthew Reichard, and Courtney Boggs Williams. Would recommend approval, sir.
Need a motion?
Motion.
Mrs. Guthrie? Mr. Ramsey? All in favor? That's carried.
Also, we have the following principals that we will be offering 4-year contracts to: Audrey Devine, Christy Garnto, Chad Hovis, Donna Kelly, Kristen Kaiser, Emily Pogue, Lynn Bennett Whiteside, and Phyllis Whitworth.
Need a motion? Ms. Cherry? Mr. Hall? All in favor? That's carried.
And thank you. That is all the appointments for tonight. We do have several vacancies that HR is working on filling at this point. We'll have those at a later date.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Booker. Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to award 4-year contracts through June 30th, 2023 to the following individuals. Dr. William Jeffrey Booker, Superintendent. Dr. Melissa Balknight, Associate Superintendent. Gary Hoskins, Associate Superintendent. And Sonia McGraw, Attorney.
Need a second? Any questions? Mr. Hall. Mr. Hall made a second. All in favor? And it's carried.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ms. Guthrie.
I would like to make a the superintendent's salary by the average teacher increase in 2018-19 of 6.5% effective June 1st, 2019.
Do I have a second?
I'll
Mr.
second.
Ms. Cherry? All in favor?
Hold on, I'd like to make some comments, if I may.
Okay, yes, yes.
In Mr. Booker's evaluation, I'd like to say that this past year shows the commitment Superintendent Booker has for Gaston County Schools by continuing to improve himself as a leader. Mr. Booker has completed his doctorate and is officially Dr. Booker. He continues to challenge his staff and pushes for a continuing education for everyone so that they all can become masters of their craft. Dr. Booker continues to build bonds and relationships with every aspect of our county. He knows the business leaders, faith organization leaders, and parents all by name. You can witness this when he presents awards or recognizes them for their accomplishments and support for Gaston County Schools. Dr. Booker does not sit on his success. He continues to be involved with the latest ideas in learning, the newest technology, and always pushing staff for excellence in education. Dr. Booker continues to prioritize safe and orderly schools. He strives for staff and law enforcement to continue to improve our safety programs, procedures, and physical improvements to keep our staff and students safe. I'm honored to serve on this board, and especially with Dr. Booker as our superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collier. Ms. Cherry?
Working with Dr. Booker and his team continues to be an exciting and pleasure for me. Our community embraces him. They know him well and gravitate to him, one of the many reasons our business partnerships have grown and diversified over the years. I truly am astounded to think about all the positive changes, improvements, and growth our system has had and experienced since he became our superintendent in 2014. These changes and improvements, some only tweaks, some minor, some major, took courage, vision, and leaps of faith from all of our employees and our community. And I just want to highlight just a few. He redesigned classroom instruction, focusing on individual learning. We've expanded subject offerings for middle and high school students. We've started summer reading programs targeting lower performing first, second, and third grade students. We've offered more choices to our students and our parents. We have more classroom technology. We continue school safety enhancements. We offer more CT opportunities in a growing successful collaboration with our business partners. We've increased community involvement. We continue positive and healthy relationships with our county commissioners and our county manager. And we've constructed and opened 3 new schools, consolidated 3 schools into one, and we're starting on a 4th. We just passed the $250 million bond, the 4% sales tax for new school construction and school improvements, and all that in 5 short years. So it's just amazing what he has done and the great staff with him. And we couldn't ask for a more dynamic and visionary superintendent. And as Mr. Collier said, it is truly an honor to be part of this board and work with him.
Thank you, Ms. Cherry. We have, yes, ma'am.
I do have something. I am looking at numbers that range from well below standard to well above standard. And for vision, Dr. Booker, 5. High student performance, Dr. Booker, 5. Safe and orderly schools, Dr. Booker. 5, quality teachers, administrators, and staff, Dr. Booker. 5, effective and efficient operations, Dr. Booker. 5, and board relations, Dr. Booker. 5+. And it has been a pleasure to work with you, Dr. Booker. First, let me say that we appreciate your visibility in the community. I believe that you are forever listening and searching for ways to improve the lives of our students. I think that we as a school district continue to show growth due to your leadership. In your thoughts for the success and effectiveness of this district, you are wise enough to know that one curriculum does not fit all choice. I believe that you've worked hard to ensure that all departments have a say in the planning and implementation of the district's goals and objectives by giving your administrators the opportunity to make some site-based decisions. This is good because most can determine the culture of their school community. I was most impressed to hear that even food services and high schools worked and planned together to make sure that our high school students were fed at the appropriate time. The training which is provided for new teachers is greatly appreciated by all. It allows students and teachers to bond and create a sense of security. You have strengthened the importance of education in this county. Not only that, you put us in a position to become one of the most recognized and school districts in North Carolina. Thank you.
All right, I got a motion, Ms. Guthrie, and a second, Mr. Collier. All in favor? And it is carried.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to amend the superintendent's contract to reimburse the actual tuition expenses incurred in pursuing of his doctorate degree in education.
All right, Mr. Ramsey got a second, Ms. Cherry. Any questions, discussion? All in favor? And it is carried.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to increase the superintendent's salary by 3% effective June 1st, 2019, in the acknowledgement of his successful completion of the degree of Doctorate of Education.
Do you hear a second? Ms. Guthrie? Have a first and a second. Any discussion? Questions? All in favor? And it is carried. Thank you all for your time and attention. We look forward to our next regular board meeting, which will be announced. We do have a couple of birthdays to celebrate this evening. Mr. Usry is June the 1st, Mr. Hall, July the 4th, and Mr. Ramsey, July the 8th. That's all we have tonight. I'd like to also say it's been a pleasure and an honor to work with this man. I'm really impressed with him, his vision. When I came on the board, I heard so much negativity, out there, but I've found nothing but greatness that's going on in this school. And I love working with you guys, and I wish you all the best. Thank you, Mr. Hall.
And happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Yeah. And that brings us to the conclusion. Mr. Dedman, second, Mrs. Guthrie. All in favor? And it's carried.